Okay, greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the last of the Works of Resilience readings. On this February 5th, I want to take a moment and thank all of the hands that help us put this together. I particularly want to thank my co-editors, Ifiona Fulani and Vita James, who worked tirelessly with me this summer and fall to put this issue together. I also want to thank Michael McDermott from the Black Earth Institute and the managing editor for About Place Journal. And I want to thank Jake Helene, who's our tech person tonight. And I also want to just say that if you're looking for the bios of the readers, I'm going to ask you to go back to About Place Journal and look up not only their bios, but take a look at the work if you haven't done so already. If you have questions, please leave them in the Q&A or comments or thoughts in the chat. And I think that I would like to, most of the readings have been dedicated to either those we've lost in the pandemic and other resistance heroes. I thought that I would try to focus a little bit on resilience this evening. And I thought I'd start with a poem by Lucille Clifton called Blessing the Boats. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you in your innocence sail through this to that. And I feel like that's where we are right now. We're sailing through, and we hope we get to that. Uh, I thought I would introduce our first reader, Kimberly Ann Priest, who's who did some work, who does some work with the Black Earth Institute.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline. It's nice to be here, everyone. Yes, I did some work with Black Earth Institute in the fall, so actually the summer and the fall. So it's nice to be back. And I'm going to read one poem for you all tonight. It's a longer one. It's a narrative poem and based on true events. In rereading this poem tonight, it kind of hit me a little differently than when I'd originally wrote it, and the many times I read it afterwards. I just went through it slowly today, and I'm really happy to be starting us off because this poem is so much about the fact that resilience is sort of built one little failure at a time, that it's not something that we just gather up quickly. And I think after a lot of the events that have happened over the last 4 years and the exhaustion that we're all experiencing right now, and the events are continuing, it can feel like so much is happening and there's so much to rescue and so much to save and so much to overcome. And that can be so overwhelming. And when I wrote this poem, I was trying to overcome some things in my own life that felt very overwhelming. And this poem just slowly kind of goes through the fact that you can't save everything all at once, that it really is one thing at a time that we can just tackle little by little. And so I'm going to read this poem for you. It's about me, it's about the monarchs, it's about trauma, it's about many things. I'm still writing about monarchs. I'm painting monarchs now, just thinking a lot about these fragile creatures. So I will be quiet now. Well, I won't be quiet, but I will stop talking and I will read poetry. This much. The epigram reads, because of the ubiquitous spraying of Roundup on corn and soy that have been genetically modified to resist herbicides, the monarch is bad trouble in the core of its range, where its sole host plant weed is living. Each year, monarchs repopulate in the corn agricultural region in America's heartland, where they lay their eggs on milkweed plants in spring while migrating north to Canada. My friend Cruz and I stand in what used to be a cornfield, now his handiwork of garden plots for immigrant families and milkweed plants, to provide a landing pad for sojourning monarchs to lay their eggs. Here, they reproduce, and the caterpillars are sometimes whisked into jars and kept in homes, then freed after incubation to ensure that yet another butterfly survives the season despite their overall declining numbers worldwide. I hold my own jar frocked with milkweed stem as Cruz tells me how long until the caterpillar will incubate and how long incubation will be. But once home, the caterpillar eats and eats its way up the stem in the jar, then dies there, a long white string extending from its body. My daughter says that this string is a sign of a pre-existing parasite. Not your fault, Mom, she says, staring into her computer where she reads all about monarch diseases and death. Still, that gnawing sensation that I failed a whole species by not saving this one, not knowing what could have been done to cure it of the tiny predator under its flesh, peering into the glass jar, insect shriveled and dangling. I am reminded that 3 years ago, my family witnessed my shaken mind as the memories of childhood sexual assault came rushing back and, like a tiny predator, traveled through my psyche, feasting on the tissue of my present and future. With terrors from my past, they watched, but could do nothing to save me from this unraveling, and in their own fear of exposure as helpless and vulnerable gods, accused me then and there of dying, then turned away. As I began alone, working out my narratives, hoping they would appreciate my trying, the caterpillar hung in the jar for a whole 2 weeks before I decided to clean it out. As I let our mutual helplessness exist between us, refusing to ignore its obvious shame. Love is never a failure, a friend of mine tells me. And I know he means to add, even if it's lost. I caressed the side of the jar, consoling myself concerning this dead would-be monarch, its tiny finger-like worm sutured to the lid, knowing how long and hard it fought to accomplish just this much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Very fine reading. Thank you. And up next, we have Genevieve Pfeiffer, who's going to have to unmute herself.
I'm a little slow with the mouse.
Okay.
Funny, I'm always the last one to leave a meeting because I take forever to move the mouse to that part of the screen.
It's all
Um,
right.
so it's funny. I was listening to Kim's post. Or poem. I was thinking about the monarchs. I really wanted over the summer to visit down south and watch the migrations, but obviously with COVID, that didn't work out. So your poem, thank you for that, kind of brought a little bit back to me. So this poem is called "This the Mountain." The trill in your chest, those lungs, strong elastic maids. It's autumn. The air is warm with leaf mold. Everything is on fire. The heat of life dries to a brilliant crisp. Your feet, solid atop death-sodden colors, and beneath you, the legs which have brought you this far. You watch the change. A carnelian sugar maple leans into scintillating scarlet of red maple. Your thoughts leave an uncatchable echo, pleasantly lost in the lurid river birch's yellow. You are auburn, you are beech. You watch the change from inside it. You stand at its foot with your human life.
Mm.
So this second poem, thank you.
Mm.
Second poem is Senescence. A single crimson maple leaf falls to pavement. Its alchemy, product of suns, fire, and earth, others follow. A Granny Smith green modeled a bold and eerie chartreuse, the same shade as a caterpillar's slinking back before it blooms into monarch.
Mhm.
Slippery, simply because there's nothing to make of the trees. They do as trees do. Each has called up the earth through xylem and phloem, called to its roots, demanded what is rich, pure desire kissed to light. The tree mixes minerals and sun, converts the elements into life. Nothing more. Sun? What element is sun? We can conjecture all we want about trees and people, but the living feels good. The bright on my back on this cool autumn day as I watch the red photosynthesizer slit the air to scar. I miss it already. But here, clean of smog, the city, rubbed shiny by a crisp, dry front that whisked summer away in all its heavy glory. It is good, this breaking from the earth's tilt towards heavy. And so I do what is good. I wake up early for the silence of these trees, and once in them, they change something in me too.
Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you. Up, up next, Ty Allen.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Jake, for keeping us on task. And I'm glad to be amongst such great people, great writers. All right, here goes everything. We don't want to talk about it. Oh, we talk about it. But when we chant, we know just what it is. Don't want to talk about it. Oh, we talk about it. But when we chant, we know just what it is. I love it. I love it. I love it when you come back home. Love it. Shelters and masks, ruin and protect. Gather the things, space them in place. Cue the doors to shut up. Lock out access to air. Protect your air. Scrub down all skin. Touch the sun via glass. Collect light. Close the shades. Hide from others afraid to inhale. Share breathe outs in public. Wanted our handshakes, hugs, missed casuals we use as glue. But love is when you come back home. Love is when you come back home. Love is what being here means is, and the kindness of others is appreciated on the open and black markets. Since both are close by the spot, we get lotto tickets and that little bags of that good. Cop cursing and camera time are important. Modules to a hurting block and one crying mother, full of gasp and red eyes about what blood ruins when it blacktops or topsoils under a sun, with a broken mom now replaying those Sunday school lessons, while those men in suits comfort the cameras, using quotas and quotes, all firebranding and harsh words, half thoughts, and dead lines. Media will turn into spins. Mom will cry and claw away at the money to upturn dirt, place him in Easter Sunday shoes that shine in dirt. One day, a graphic tee, an infographic, and a graphite sign will media his name into spins amidst covers, coverings, cough, and the heavy cost of Molotovs burning cardboards and covering over patrol cars. But don't want to talk about it. Oh, we talk about it. But when we sent, we know just what it is. Love is when you come back home. Love is when you come back home. Thanks, guys. So the
Thank you.
idea, and what I was doing with these poems actually from a book where the titles are actually part of the poem, and the poems actually lead into the title, which leads into the next poem. And when live, we actually have added vocals and music to these poems to make them have a little give them an extra life. So I wanted to kind of replicate what we do live and what the book, if you read it in the book, these poems are actually back to back, how it would read in the book. So, but thanks again, Jackie. Thanks again, Vita, who's my partner in crime, my other stuff. So I'm glad to be here and I look forward to hearing everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you for a soulful reading of your own work. That doesn't always happen. All right. And right behind him is the chartreuse, the jazz chartreuse, EJ Antonia.
Oh, good evening, everybody. I just want to thank Jackie and Black Earth Institute and the About Place Journal for making this reading possible and giving us writers a place to show our work and share what we've been doing in the world creatively. I'm going to be doing two poems. One is called Another Juneteenth, and the other one is called Damned. I will be reading them as a combined poem, so there won't be a break in between. And so the first poem will be Another Juneteenth. Amazing grace, how sweet, sweet, sweet. If not here, then where would I be? Grace, grace. Shifting across histories, I never heard the chains rattle, never felt the lash, thrashing, ocean, sinking, flesh, torn from ancient land. My body never knew the name I was separated from. Grace, grace, amazing. I searched the faces coming toward me on any street in these United States of ambiguity. I half expecting to find a familiar stranger to claim me. How sweet, rising from south, west, east, north. A living ghost, hiding in plain sight, my anguish, my anguish, my anguish, 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 terror layered just below the surface of skin. A legacy passed on, unanswered, if not here in the falsehood of America, then where? Who would I be had there been no shifting across histories? Had there been no shifting across the histories, my body never knew the shifting, the shifting, the shifting, the shifting across histories. How sweet the sound. We could say the virus mutates geographically. The task force keeps avoiding saying the obvious. Just say it's not the China version attacking New Yorkers. Just say Europe. Just say our borders were closed to half the threat. Just say the Black mother who lost her daughter who worked at the giant supermarket cried so hard during her MSNBC News interview that the newscaster lost her stoic face and cried with her. The news. The task force keeps avoiding stating the obvious. We could plainly say all essential workers are being sent to slaughter, paint them with masks of heroes, send them to war with dull sticks and no armor. Where's Captain America when you need him? Where's Wonder Woman when you need her? Where's Black Panther? Living in fantasy. Just say the emperor fiddled and danced naked in the glow of an artificial suntan while the country burned. Just say the mother who lost her daughter who worked at the giant supermarket became hysterical during her MSNBC News interview as she held up her daughter's last paycheck for $20. Just say she screamed into the camera that the snake oil drug of choice didn't work. Say the newscaster lost her stoic camera face and cried with her. We could say a virus mutates across grief. They keep avoiding stating the obvious. Damn it, just say. It's still easier to focus on the color line, to give a false sense of safety and privilege to the other. Just say, go to the party. Play no mask required roulette with everyone's life. Just say how the freezer trucks are filled with our murderous ignorance. How sweet the sound. Thank you.
Thank you, EJ. Thank you for bringing the truth, as always. Up next, we have Marcy Rendon.
All right, Miigwech. Thank you for the journal and thank you for this event tonight. I'm going to read two pieces. First one is trigger warning, and it really is a trigger warning. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, it's nighttime, I wonder. But anyways, here it goes. Trigger warning, or genocide is worse than racism. Welcome to Dakota County, where on December 26, 1862, Abraham Lincoln ordered the hanging of 38 Dakota men, 80 miles southwest of here in the town of Mankato, the largest mass hanging in the United States of America, and exiled all Dakota people from their homeland. This a mere 3 months after issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. There are over 35,000 Native Americans living in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. You are in the heart of Indian country. Trigger warning. North Dakota's male-dominated oil fields have created a huge demand for sex workers, many of whom are Native American women and children. April 8th, 2015, the Fargo Police Department is asking for the public's help locating Lacey Feather, 17 years old. Trigger warning. Missing and murdered Native women in Canada could number 4,000, but we know there are at least 1,853 known missing and murdered First Nations women across the northern continent. Their names, single space, cover 90 typewritten pages. That number increases daily. Trigger warning. Tina Michelle Fontaine, 15, Saugeen First Nations, Manitoba, went missing July 2014. Her body found wrapped in a bag in Winnipeg's Red River, August 17th, 2014. No arrests have been announced. Sometimes sorrow consumes my soul. Angela Porman, 29-year-old mother of 3, found lying on the sidewalk in critical condition, Winnipeg's North End, December 14th, 2014, stabbed to death. No charges have been laid. Brandy Wessakate, 28, was last seen leaving a house party in Regina on New Year's Eve Day, 2012. She was born a man and identifies as a woman. Pamela Napoleon, 42, reported missing from Blueberry River First Nations, July 2014. Her body found August 4th, 2014, in a trapper's cabin that had been burned to the ground. They are treating her death as suspicious. Frida Goodrunning, a 35-year-old mom of 6 from Sunchild First Nation, Alberta. Goodrunning was found dead in a storage shed June 4th, 2014. No charges laid in her killing. Don't tell me you don't see Indians here. Your only wish is that we would silently disappear. Trigger warning. Cindy Glado, 36 years old, found dead in an Edmonton hotel room. She bled to death from a 5-inch wound to her vagina, June 20th, 2011. On March 18th, 2015, a jury found Bradley Barton not guilty. Sometimes the wind isn't lonely. It's a cover for the bodies on the rise, called the winds of grief to sing your healing into being. Sometimes the wind isn't lonely. It's a cover for the bodies on the rise. Trigger warning. Their names, single-spaced, cover 90 typewritten pages. So that's that one. A little happier. I don't know if it's happier. Anyways, it's called I Come From. It was first published in Yellow Medicine Review, spring 2020. I come from a people of want, a people of never have, never enough, don't got. I come from a people where migrant workers' tortillas smothered in melting butter were springtime food, and stolen chocolate competed with Crisco rolled in sugar for weekly fat count. I come from a people who never show fear, women who laugh in the face of 6-inch knives. I come from men and women who taught us to play hide and seek from county social workers, the same way other kids play tag. I come from a people who know how to rock and roll play country on 4-string guitars and broken accordions. I come from a people who know the loud silence of trees and rivers flowing, and people who know that even gravel talks when listened to. I come from a people who calmly, softly said, they are people too, long before any civil or equal rights movement. Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you. It was such a blessing to have your words in this issue. Such a blessing. Up next, we have Marjorie Wentworth, my South Kakalaki sister.
Yeah, that's why you asked for that South Kakalaki poem. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So, well, thank you so much for including me, and really happy to be here, and just love all the work that Black Earth Institute's doing. I'm going to read 3 poems, and I didn't realize till today they're all occasion poems, and suddenly everyone's paying a lot of attention to occasion poems because of Amanda Gorman. And so this first poem I'm going to read is called Requiem for Rice. And it was actually written for a service held at Mother Emanuel Church a couple of years ago. And it was literally a requiem for rice. And Nikki Finney was there and read a poem too. It was a really quite an extraordinary occasion. I know we're here to talk about resilience, and these are some of the most resilient people I've ever met at this church. Requiem for Rice. When we walk from the sea along the river filling with tides, we will bend down to plant rice in mud that was here before we came, water touching roots growing beyond memory. We will pass neglected graves of the enslaved. The earth holds their names the way it holds rain. We will dig through centuries until we find them, bent to earth, bent to water. We will plant rice beyond the numbers, beyond the names. Now I'm going to read a kind of eulogy I was asked to write for a church in Charleston. It's called 100,000 Names. And of course, I wrote it on the occasion of 100,000 Americans dying from COVID. And it was to be put outside of the church since, of course, it was closed because of the pandemic. And I read it the night before The presidential inauguration, some of you might have read poems in your cities as a memorial. I think President-elect Biden wanted all the cities to do this. And when I read it that Tuesday, we had hit 400,000 dead. So I read it as that, but tonight I'll read it as 100,000 names. Whether it is morning and sunlight is seeping through overlapping oak branches, bursting with bright leaves, or late in the day after rain has fallen and the scent of spring splashes across the washed sky, emptied of clouds and opening. You have arrived at this sanctuary where the locked church door is never closed to anyone. Step into the circle of grace woven from many threads that bind us across time and place. Let us mourn together the thousands upon thousands who have perished, so many alone, so many afraid, so far from the people they loved most. Perhaps you or someone you know, cousin, coworker, neighbor, or friend, 100,000 stories left to tell, 100,000 voices suddenly silent, 100,000 names etched on the altars of our hearts. Our grief is collective, tear-stained and bright blue like a wound or the wind wrapping itself around you as you step back out into the world where the names of the lost are tumbling through the sky. And the last poem I'm going to read was written for an unusual occasion. It was the 70th anniversary of the closing of the military tribunals in Nuremberg, Germany. I guess I'm the only poet that the people on the International Criminal Court know. That's what, but it was really quite an honor to be asked to write this poem and then read it in the actual courtroom in Nuremberg. And the idea is to think of the what the meaning of the Nuremberg trials is to us now. And where would we be without that precedent? It's dedicated to Henry Barbanel, whose daughter I grew up with, and he was a survivor of the Holocaust. In the shadows of Nuremberg. Because we are forever weak and wounded, looking for someone to follow or blame, sometimes we become savage and change the rules to ease our minds. Clouded by delusions of power or fame, human beings can justify anything. And too often things can go wrong in a hurry, and the masses go along as if their hearts were turned inside out, and hatred was something long hidden, but there, like a riptide, pulling below the glittering smooth surface of the sea. Abandoning everything we know is right, we become tribal and primitive, tearing the ties that bind us one to another as if they were made of air. And love dissolves into something lost in the cruel cacophony. And though it may be far, there is always a storm swirling somewhere. The sea that connects and creates us holds the seeds of our destruction. Still, God keeps nothing from us. Each new wave is a renewal every day, a gift of our own making. As we stumble from the shadows of the 20th century, covered in blood and ash, cradling the bones of those who are lost. We know there can be justice. The pattern has been set, no matter how long it takes. There is no peace without redemption. Without shadows, there is no light. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you for a fine reading. And for those who haven't seen these poems, you want to run, go, and click on About Place Journal. I'd like to introduce Alexis Latham. She is in the Black Earth Institute cohort that I'm a part of. And she is going to be the next editor of the forthcoming issue of About Place Journal. And Alexis, I don't know if you want to say a few words or give an ad for the next issue. The call is still out. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for inviting me to read with you tonight. And it's a great honor to be with all of the poets here tonight. It's been amazing. So I was really thrilled to hear Kimberly's poem about the if you haven't already, be submitting work. So I want to just read this about from an essay I wrote called Take, for Example, the Monarch Butterfly. And I want to dedicate it to the memory of two of the guardians of the butterfly forest reserves who were murdered last year around this time. And it was right around the time when I happened to be visiting. So I hope it's okay if I jump to the end. We went back to see the butterflies later in the season at the end of February, this time to El Rosario, the biggest of the sanctuaries and the most visited. I wanted to see how the community was responding to the assassinations, and I wanted to see the butterflies one more time, at the time of year when the days are warming and they are preparing for their departure. Our combi dropped us off before an immense parking lot with dozens of giant tour buses parked as if it were a stadium. We knew there would be more people at this time of year, but this crowd we had not expected, this carnival scene. We followed the crowd up a path lined with vendors selling butterfly key rings and napkins, butterfly print scarves, hand-carved wooden bowls, Mexican peasant blouses, wool crafts, and hand-woven baskets. There were tacos and elotes and fresh strawberries and hot cauldrons of a purple broth I later learned was a raspberry and cornflower drink. On our way back down, we would stop for a dinner of fried trout and quesadillas with flores de calabaza. At last, we came to the entrance to the sanctuary, where we paid our fee and continued with the crowd, no guide required. It was a long and difficult ascent at that altitude. The tourists were almost all Spanish-speaking. A very old woman making her way slowly with the help of her granddaughter, bent over a cane, and I wondered how many hours she had been walking to get that far. Vale la pena. The concrete steps gave way to dirt, and at last we came to clearing and into a blizzard of orange wings. Butterflies perched on yellow flowers and drank, as numerous as dandelions in a spring meadow. The long line of spectators snaked along the edge of the woods. They held their cell phones up to the canopy of butterfly-drenched firs. I could see the pendulous clusters, the thumbnail-sized saffron robes floating and drifting in the air, the mountain kites, as they are sometimes called, the flames of 10,000 candles in a dark woods. We waited our turn to make our way to the front of the line to get a good view. There were hundreds of cameras held up overhead, and it reminded me of candlelight applause in rock concerts. And here, where we were asked to guarda silencia, was our applause. Today, everything exists to end in a photograph, Susan Sontag wrote, long before the age when every adult would carry a camera in her back pocket wherever she went. She called the need to take photographs a kind of consumerism, a need to have reality confirmed. I also took photographs, although I wasn't sure why I needed to, for who would ever believe me if I reported on what I had seen? I did not resent the crowds. I had my solitary time with the butterflies at Sierra Chincua. In truth, I was glad to see all those visitors had come, because it was the people's answer to the murderers who had killed Homero Gonzalez and Raul Rodriguez in an attempt to destroy the sanctuary. They were the answer to my friend who had said Mexicans are not focused on nature. Here by the thousands they came and raised their cameras and their electric applause, the boxes of light waving overhead like prayer flags. Here was the world given over to praise and to useless beauty. We had at last learned to love this world, only as it erupted before us in a conflagration of orange wings, before turning to ashes and dust. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. And I hope you consider picking up the baton that I'm throwing to you. I'm going to read two poems. And one is called Notes from the American Epicenter. And it's in a kind of diary form. And I'll probably read 5 or 6 pieces, very small pieces from it. 1. This American president respects neither science nor religion. His only God is money. Many of us in this America will pay for generations for his devout worship. 2. N95 masks are now $561. 3. I get the call not to return to the office. Delton has tested positive while on vacation in Canada. For 10 days, he will not see American soil. Did we stand together a few inches between us? Not a test anywhere in the city to be not taken. 4. Today, the mayor hints at closing the city. I run to do the oh shit shopping. Black elders, young Latinx, and whites fill the aisles. No social distancing to be found. 5. Today, I learned my 96-year-old cousin has tested positive for COVID-19. When I hear she has such a bad attitude, she has refused the oxygen offered, I know she will live. Only the most ornery, independent, clear-eyed ones live. 6. A day after the pink moon, Uncle Roy has followed his wife into the other world. She is less than 7 days gone. Some 65 years of marriage. They are now inseparable ancestors. 7. Who knows amongst the millions of untested, whose blood will one day reveal the silver light of antibodies? 8. Chinese locals in Guangdong province masquerade fears of the coronavirus with racism. Give 1-hour notices to their African tenants who roam the streets, carry their lives on top their heads. 9. Day 119. Still no COVID-19 tests available for the millions of us. 10. Zinc tablets, garlic, ginger, vitamin C, herbal hex against the virus. 11. Rona, you knobby-headed bitch, succubus of bats, thief of lives, vicious virus, virulent across the planet. When are you leaving? And I decided to close with something a little more upbeat. This is a long poem, so I'm gonna skip over some sections. It's called 21 Ways to Love a Black Woman. Imagine being covered in silver, platinum or charcoal, blue gray, lunar gray silk. 1, love her faithfully. 2, enthusiastically. Definition, eagerness, zeal for the subject. If you don't know what to do, fake it, but fake it good. Try chocolate of all kinds, brownies, kisses, Peruvian or Belgian chocolate. Smoke, slate. 4, refuse to count her flaws, your flaws. Small print gone large, forget it, accept them. 5, cook and cook well, not just food, but nourishment for the soul. 7, humor, bring lots of humor. Shark skin, murky puddle, wrought iron, ashen, gray gull, ocean mists. 8, be the owner of strong hands. Man known for brawn and brain, pewter, heather, chromium, nimbus cloud gray. 9, protect kindling of life within her as a mirror of your own beauty. Steel wool, smoke, embers, gray gull. 10, read aloud the poetry of Neruda, Shange, Brooks, Hayden. Try to get a chance, any chance of a date, a touch in this lifetime. Lunar eclipse gray, stratus argent, rocky slope, silver fox hunter gray. 11, got to have dough, your own money. Solid credit helps. Wrought iron, Avalon, Pearl River, Earl Grey. And I'm gonna skip a little. Bring music, the whole bata line of a samba band, or the underside of the bass guitar in a Bob Marley song. Bring music, enough to dance into the dawn. Silver Spring, Macy Gray, sea foam, thundercloud. Can you sing? Lyric clothes and inhibitions to the floor. At least be able to hum. Shh, shh, into a collarbone. Wolf gray, ice mist, stone gray, sledge gray. Serve up coconut milk, honey, oranges, pineapple, whipped cream. Savor the body's ambrosia. Graphite gray, light gray, blue gray. Adorn her in obsidian or turquoise. Bring malachite to her healing. Center, restring the broken layer. Come as love, be love. Iron gray, dawn gray. Try flowers, lots of flowers, freesia, lilies, orchids, roses, iridescent silver, mermaid gray. And last, did I mention it? Bring wine, if you must, something red, an Argentinian will do. Thank you. Up next, our last poet, Drea Brown, whose work I fell in love with. Her work opens the issue of About Place Journal, Works of Resistance, Resilience. And I thought it would be fitting that she would close our reading. She hands down was the opening poet of the issue. And like all of you, her work was a gift. Drea Brown.
Thank you so much for this space. So powerful, so necessary on a Friday night. So this first poem that I'm going to read, I was asked to write for Black graduation at UT Austin in 2017. The theme was #Black Grad Magic. So this poem is written in the spirit of Phyllis Wheatley, June Jordan and Lucille Clifton. It's called The Difficult Miracle of Black Magic in America, or One More Reason to Listen to Nina Simone. They will call you wicked, think you incapable, improbable, a dream deferred or accepted by affirmative action. They will say you are unbelievable, a ripe thing for picking off, on, poking at, locking up, looking through, over, kept under watch, in margins, chokeholds. None of this is true. When you are young, gifted, and Black, your soul's intact. Magic is mistaken. Yours is magnificent, incomprehensible blues and bone and blood. Memory is magic, meaning you must remember. This is not an illusion. Magic meaning divine, lightning in the crossroads of your palm. Magic meaning resilience, meaning every day something has tried to kill you. Magic meaning you are a miracle. Fix your lips to say when you're young, gifted, and Black, your soul's intact. They will call and claim you are many things. Some of this is true. You are wondrous after all. Your feet, a rumble of drums over earth. Magic, meaning you are a mirror to reckon with, a light to step into. One day you will burst and see that magic means today you are here. You are here. When you're young, gifted, and Black, your soul's intact. Okay. This poem is called What Matters If Not Breath. It's a sestina, so each line ends with one of 6 words for the whole poem. It's intense. A second. At times, it seems Black life matters only in death, and we die hard. That ain't no lie. Sometimes we see it coming. Sometimes we go to sleep and never wake. Then someone makes t-shirts, offers flowers, a mural, a song, candles. Someone says this matters, and the one before and the ones before, remember them too. Some of us cannot forget. We live mourning what we fear the body will become, a chant, our march, a verdict of hopelessness, a spectacle on repeat. Such a familiar pattern, tears and tear gas, pushback, solemn apologies on repeat. All around us are effigies of ghosts, memorials and mamas who can't take another lie, so they plant gardens where blood softens the earth, open caskets so the body is a testament of love and grievance, and everyone is invited to the wake of the neighbor's child. Rest in power, sister, brother, cousin, and loving memory of a dear father, auntie, uncle, gone too soon. Hashtags and hymns, candles lit at vigils, bonfires in our chests. For every life snuffed out, light another candle. The flames will become constellations, but there are too many stars to count and repeat. And all this matters, all this loss, all this Black, all this hurt, these memories not in the neck, make the spirit sore, leave an arid mouth, tongue too bitter to lie. So you pray the night grows calm, that tomorrow is not too hot, that no one wakes to mistake your minding your own business for insolence, and you wake knowing the body is a marvel, a totem of resilience and ancestor sacrifice. You believe the body deserves every breath, and this is right. Such a prayer is possible. Light a candle because all this matters, all this life, all this Black, all this glory, and you wake and rock and hum and breathe and repeat. Rock and hum and breathe and repeat. And it is fire, it is water, earth and wind and black and everywhere in everything. No lie. So you remember, we survive because we refuse to forget. We die because we refuse to forget these memories of paradox and persistence, of breath snatched and pressed beneath a knee, bodies overboard or underground, thrown into the street, marching down the street, lying in the street for hours and hours. We remember because it is our right. Light a candle for everything lost and found in the dark, then rock and hum and breathe and repeat. Someone says Black joy matters. So we dare ourselves to dream ourselves and wake up laughing, in love with the fullness of us. I have always wanted to wake up laughing and unafraid of the nightmare of these days. Perhaps to remember is to imagine how we survive regardless of history's cruel shuffle, step, and repeat. Someone says freedom is not fiction. I believe this. Someone says our bodies are sacred and I want to be alive and irreducible. Each morning, I light a candle for right now, for unfettered futures, a candle for the dead and restless to lie still, for the spirits that guide, for the waking to be easy, a candle to honor our bodies' fight and flight, every name before and after today. Light a candle to remember we are not the horror on repeat. All this Black, all that matters is our breath, no lies. Thank you.
Thank you. Amen. Amen.
All right.
Thank you for bringing your heart and your truth, Jaya. Thank you. I want to take a moment and just thank all the readers for such a soulful and powerful reading this evening. It's so fitting that we can close with all this wonderful energy. I want to take a moment and read a few things from the chat. I think a few of you got if I'm not mistaken,
Wait, Jacqueline, hold on. Can we
okay.
thank you?
Oh, sure.
I mean, that might be important. So sometimes we forget to tell people they did something great. And you had me laughing at my last panel, which is funny. So I wanted to tell you here. I couldn't tell you then because I was on the panel, but thank you for having us here and having me in my work. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your wonderful work. You made my job as in the work that Fiona and Vita and I did easy. All right, a few things from the chat. From Pamela Ushuk, she says, "What a powerful sestina, difficult to pull off, but you've done it beautifully." I think there's also, if I'm not mistaken, Get 'em, Drea. And Ty said, "I have to go back to being a political consultant." A meeting with one of my state candidates. Thank you so much. And then he said, "I need to marry Drea or Genevieve." Ah, so look out, YouTube.
You're gonna get me in trouble with my girlfriend. I'm supposed to repeat that
Hey,
part.
you put it out there. You put it out there.
Oh gosh.
Hey, you can send me something in PayPal. Let's see. Well, I think there's just a lot of praise for this reading. I did copy the chat. I'll send it to you. Just so that you can see the comments that came through. I don't really see any questions. Perhaps, I leave it open for you to talk amongst yourselves if any of you have questions or comments for each other. Otherwise, I'm going to just say, look for the next issue of About Place Journal. The one that Alexis Latham and Richard Chamberlain will be working on that. And I have really enjoyed hearing your work this evening. And there should be a recording that goes up at a later date.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Michael.
you.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Vida. Vida, I'll see you tomorrow.